Howdy, friends. Brad Kolodner here with a very special guest as we are broadcasting through Oldtime Central's Facebook page and also on the Oldtime Jam on Bluegrass Country Radio and Radio Bristol, a special virtual interview and performance with our good pal Maggie Shar out of Western Mass, who is an incredible banjo player, a member of the group the Moonshells, who have a new album coming out on October 2nd called House of Air. And we'll chat about the new record, also dive into Maggie's background as a banjo player and what got her started. Maggie, can you hear me nice and clearly up there in Western Mass?
Sounds good, Brad. Can hear you loud and clear.
Thanks so much for taking the time to join us here at Old Time Central and Bluegrass Country Radio and Radio Bristol. Man, we're doing a lot of multitasking here. But I hope you're doing well up there in Massachusetts. I've certainly missed running into you at various old time festivals around the country during the summer. I know we've crossed paths at various festivals like Cliff Top. I think that's maybe where we met. Have you been able to keep music in your life despite the current state of the world?
Yeah, for sure. Obviously, it looks a little different, but in the first few months there was a lot of internet play-alongs, playing along with my computer screen, and then since it's been nice out, I've been playing outside a little bit with my bandmates and yeah, finding ways to keep it alive.
Chatting with Maggie Shar here on Bluegrass Country Radio and Old Time Central, and such a treat to be able to connect with you despite the current state of things. It is really nice to have these kind of platforms to connect, and we will certainly talk more about how you've pivoted in this time with your work as an early childhood music educator, and also other events online like your entry into the online old time banjo contest, as you were an honorable mention earlier this summer. But the main attraction here is your banjo playing and your new record with the Moonshells. So before we dive into your backstory, how about you play us a tune? Would you like to kick things off with a banjo tune?
Yeah, sure. I'm going to play Glory in the Meeting House, and this is a tune I learned from Adam Hurt. I learned a lot of tunes from Adam Hurt. He's one of my banjo heroes. And then I'm sure I've deconstructed it and reconstructed it in various ways. But I'm kind of obsessed with this tune.
That's Maggie Shar here on Old Time Central and Bluegrass Country Radio. What lovely playing. That was hypnotizing there. I was transported and just sort of bobbing my head back and forth as you were playing. Such groovy playing there, Maggie.
Thanks.
And you mentioned that you have learned a lot of music from Adam Hurt, who's an incredible clawhammer player. I think it might be time for us to dive into your background as a banjo player. Do you have an earliest memory when you first heard a banjo?
I have a memory that stands out. I don't know that it's when I first heard a banjo, but it was when I decided that I would play the banjo, which was I had a friend in high school, like one of my best friends, whose stepfather was a banjo player, among other instruments. He's a great musician. And I grew up in Winston-Salem, North Carolina, so the music was around, and I went with their family to a festival, my first festival of this kind of, like, the kind of festival where people sit around and play music, and there's contests and stuff like that. We went to Sugar Grove is what it was called at the time. I think it might have morphed into Fiddler's Grove, and then I don't even know if it exists anymore or not. I don't know. That was a long time ago. But yeah, I went to that festival and I was just like, what is happening here? It kind of blew my mind. And there was a particular moment I was watching the band contest, and Amblers, they were called in that festival, were playing in the band contest. I think they won or they placed in the finals. I don't remember exactly, but I just loved the banjo player. The banjo player's name was Ivy, and she was just like kicking butt. Am I allowed to say that?
That's okay on the radio, yes.
It was awesome. And I just was like transfixed by her playing, and kind of stalked her the rest of the weekend, like watching her play. And so that was the moment where in my mind it was like, I shall play this instrument. And then it turned out that my uncle had a banjo in the basement of his house, that had sort of been passed around through my family. It was originally a tenor banjo that my grandfather played, and then my mom had it converted to a 5-string banjo. And I didn't know any of this, like sometime when she was in college. And then my uncle had it for a while, and my other uncle had it for a while, and then it came to me. So that's how it began.
Do you still play that banjo that was passed along to you?
I don't. It's really hard to play, turns out. It's kind of like, yeah, I mean, I think learning to play on that banjo was really good. It probably developed some kind of style, like helped me develop a style of my own, because you had to do different things to get the sound to come out. But yeah, no, I still have that banjo. It's sentimentally valuable to me, but I don't play it.
It's always so interesting to me learning about how folks are interested in picking up the banjo or the fiddle or an instrument in old time music in particular. I feel like many of those stories usually connect to an in-person experience where you see somebody playing live, or you're around a jam that feels organic, and like you said, it kind of blew your mind. Over the years, as you've really just stayed committed to playing old time music, can you just say a word about how essential the in-person component of this music is, and perhaps why that is so appealing to you?
Yeah, that's a great observation. It's true that the in-person, I don't know, there's some magic that happens. For me, it's a lot about playing like with people, and the I don't know another word for other than magic. Like the magic that happens when everybody sort of like locks into the same space musically, and then like there's conversations that happen, and like, not to get too woo woo, but like energy that gets moved around, and you can like create and uncreate things. I don't know, that's the part that I'm missing the most right now, but that can also happen in a performance situation, whether I'm a performer or an audience member. Definitely had like those like ecstatic moments. The music, it moves you. It moves me anyway.
Chatting with Maggie Shar here at Old Time Central and broadcasting on Bluegrass Country Radio and Radio Bristol on the Old Time Jam. I'm your host, Brad Kolodner. Maggie Shar out of Western Mass and a member of the group the Moonshells, who have a new record coming out in early October called House of Air, which features all original music. And when did you start writing songs?
Um, with the Moonshells or just in
Just in general, how did you first get into writing original material?
that actually started with the kids music that I do. So I have a band for kids called Little Roots, and we with my musical partner Annie Lynch, we do classes and concerts for kids. Um, and that I just started writing songs like because it's so easy to write kids music. It just like it doesn't have to be deep, doesn't have to be that meaningful. It just has to like work. So I think that gave me that opened the door. But I really wasn't doing much songwriting before Brian Slattery and I started writing music together.
So perhaps explain who Brian Slattery is and how you two met.
Yeah. Um, who is Brian Slattery? He's a multi instrumentalist. He lives in like around New Haven, Connecticut area. We met on the Appalachian music festival scene, old time music scene, particularly at Clifftop, which is one of the larger, more fun festivals. Um, yeah. Who else? What else do you want to know about Brian? He's super talented, plays a lot, has a lot of ideas.
So let's hear the two of you playing together. This is from a video that was released. Looks like it was recorded maybe last year, last fall, and I'm curious to learn more about this song. It's called "Sleeping Giant," and it features you on banjo and Brian Slattery playing guitar. Can you describe what this song's about?
Yeah, yeah. So this song is about a microburst that happened in the mountain that's really close to my house. I think that it's probably been about 6 or 7 years now, but it was like a big like 1 mile storm that happened while I was sleeping and like destroyed the whole mountainside, but nobody was harmed, and it was just a very dramatic shift of landscape, and it coincidentally or not, because climate change is a thing. There was also one in Brian's neck of the woods, a microburst there as well. So we wrote a song about that. And what else do I want to say about it? Oh, it's also in a really weird time signature. So that was a great challenge for me to learn how to play banjo in 7/8, or I think it's in 7/8. I don't even
Oh
know what
my,
it
that just gives me a headache thinking about trying to play in 7/8 on clawhammer banjo.
is.
Can you describe what is a microburst? I have an idea of what it might be. What are you referring to?
It's like a super powerful. I mean, I don't exactly know what happens in a microburst, but I know what the result of it. It's like a super powerful storm that's really focused in one area. So it like has the damage level of like a tornado, but it doesn't move like a tornado. It more like comes down from the sky. It just like flattens like a spot.
My goodness.
Yeah,
Well, I
yeah.
sure hope to never be caught in one of those. But you got a song out of it. It's called Sleeping Giant. Chatting here with Maggie Shar on Old Time Central and Bluegrass Country Radio and Radio Bristol on the Old Time Jam. So let's hear Sleeping Giant from Brian and Maggie coming your way right now.
Okay, one, two, ready, go. Night falls and wind blows, clouds rolling and no one seems to know. Wake up for a moment, shaking dog is licking at my nose. sunlight. Trees are broken just above the knees. All that winter, the shadow of the mountain keeps us warm. In July, you and I are walking in the footsteps of the storm.
Beautiful singing and playing there from Maggie Shar and Brian Slattery here on Old Time Central and Bluegrass Country Radio, Radio Bristol on the Old Time Jam. I'm your host, Brad Kolodner. And for those of you listening on the radio, there's a video that accompanies that song featuring the two of you playing, looks like out in a beautiful field with forest in the background and some really stark images of the microburst that took place. The song is about, and my goodness, that was quite a sight at the end of that to see how that that microburst just totally flattened that land. And that song, by the way, as we mentioned earlier, is in 7/8 time signature. I was trying to tap my foot during the song, and I realized that every 7 beats, my foot was suddenly on the wrong beat. It was really hypnotizing and cool. Really wonderful playing there from Maggie Shar and Brian Slattery, members of the group The Moonshells, who have a new album coming out on October 2nd. Maggie coming to us from Western Mass here on the program and chatting about how you got started playing banjo, how you got into writing songs, and meeting up with Brian at various old-time music gatherings. And how did you make the leap from simply being pals at festivals and maybe jamming and playing tunes to forming a band?
Yeah, so we met at festivals and then we started to get together to jam a bunch. And then, yeah, one day Brian just sent me a text or something. He was like, how do you feel about writing songs? Are you into that? And I was like, yeah. Are you into that? And he was like, yeah. So we started writing songs, and it's been cool. It's been a process of like, we do a lot of virtual songwriting, which works really well for me because there's like time to think and edit. So like one of us will think of an idea and then send it via email or like voice memo to the other one, and then ideas happen. And so we just kept doing that, and it was really fun. So we kept doing it, and then we ended up with an album. So then we were like, oh, we should be a band because we have enough for an album. And then we invited some other folks in to join the band, folks who we've been playing with, you know, the people who we end up jamming with the most at festivals, because we all sort of share like, we have a shared sense of groove, I would say. Yeah, so we invited Laura Morawski to join us, and Molly Merritt, who I've been in bands with. Molly's like my original bandmate. We've been in a band together since, I don't know, 2004, in some form of a band. There have been many bands along the way, but she lives near me, Molly Merritt, and Charlie Shaw on drums and bass.
Chatting with Maggie Shar of the Moonshells, whose latest album, House of Air, is released on October 2nd. It's your third album as a band, and you said that you have a nice shared sense of groove, and you mentioned the festival Clifftop earlier. For those of our listeners unfamiliar with the festival, perhaps you've heard it mentioned but haven't attended, can you describe what Clifftop is through your eyes?
It's my favorite place on earth. It's a gathering of musicians and music lovers, particularly old time musicians, or mostly old time, probably not exclusively. Um, yeah, and people just hang out and camp in the woods for maybe 10 days and play a lot of music together. And there's a lot of mixing and matching, so you get to play with a lot of different people, kind of 24/7. Not a lot of sleeping happens, and so it's just a lot of fun.
There is something really special about Clifftop. I've been, I think, 10 times now, and I think that's maybe where we first crossed paths. Maggie was at Clifftop. I'm not sure when. All the years of Clifftop kind of blend together after a while, but there is something really special about something you mentioned there, the sort of mix and matching of different musicians in jams, because when you get a certain combination of players, there's something very fleeting about those moments. And so I think you really want to hold on to them when you have a really nice, unique combination of players from all over the country, perhaps around the world, from different backgrounds. And there's something really special about those fleeting moments, and that impermanent uh, component of the music. You talked earlier about how something about this music that really grabs you is how you experience it in person, and there's that magic. Do you remember any jams in particular early on in your playing that were sort of transformational for you, or perhaps a couple experiences maybe at Clifftop that you can recall that just stand out as some of those sort of deeply magical moments?
Yeah, there's lots of them. I think the first magical moment that I had as a banjo player happened in this very room. I had a housewarming party after we bought this house, and I was playing a lot with Deborah Clifford at that time, and she was here with a bunch of other musicians, and we were jamming in this room. And I just remember like having a moment. I can't describe it, but I feel like it's like a transcendent moment where I feel like I was like in a different headspace and could play in a way that I'd never been able to do before, and was able to sort of like, it's just like things clicked. Maybe that was like a turning point where I was like, oh, I understand this instrument and what I can do with it, or I started to understand it. So that was one sparkly moment, and felt pretty sparkly. But man, there's so many of those moments, which is why I keep doing it. Let's see. I would say like a pivotal moment was when I first jammed with Brian Slattery. Like that was a real click. And it's sort of a similar way. They were like with that, like, oh, like I could. There's all these things that like when you play that, I can play this, and I've never done that before. So it's sort of the newness of it. That's two. One more that's actually not about me playing at all, but there's an event which I'm sure I've seen you attend, Brad, at Clifftop, called the No Talent Show, where everybody gathers under this big tent in the woods, and it's just like, it's not about your talent and your ability to play your instrument or not, and it's just such a like an organic blossoming of community, and like community weirdness. It's just wonderful, and like makes my heart happy.
Wonderful community weirdness.
Yeah.
That's like the tagline for the old time music world, I think. This is turning into quite a lovely PSA for old time music in general. And one thing I'm curious about with regards to your relationship with Brian, do you have any thoughts as to why the two of you gel so smoothly, musically, and perhaps socially as well?
That's an interesting question. I don't know. I think we both share. Maybe we have a similar value system musically, where like the things that are most important are similar. Like to me, the most important thing is the rhythm and the groove, and less important are the notes and the like exacting. I'm not an exacting kind of player. I'm there for the groove and the vibe. And I think he is as well. And we both share an interest in kind of messing with music and like exploring the boundaries and doing weird stuff, like just trying new things within a tune or within a song, or like trying to learn to play the banjo in 7/8. I mean, I'm sure that's been done before. I didn't invent that, but like I'd never tried that before. And so, yeah, I think the interest in creating something new and also like taking apart things that like breaking some rules while like being very committed to rhythm and groove is where we meet musically.
Chatting with Maggie Shar here on Oldtime Central's Facebook page and on Bluegrass Country Radio and Radio Bristol on the Oldtime Jam, going out to your radios. And I think we have another song lined up from your new record, House of Air. Maggie Shar, a member of the Moonshells. This is their third studio record. And I'm curious about this song. You say that it has a real fascinating story. It's called She Ain't Gonna Wait. Can you tell us a little bit more about this song?
Yeah. So the song was inspired by my grandmother, who lived a kind of an interesting life. She grew up Jewish in the South, as did I, and in Georgia is where she grew up, and got married to my grandmother and had grandfather and had 4 kids, but she was also gay. So she had like a lesbian lover on the side, and I have a box of letters that they exchanged. And she never really got to like live out in the world. She was basically like kind of living a life that she had to live at that time, and in her, where she was in the world and where the world was. So she like lived the life that she had to live, but also lived the life that she wanted to live sort of secretly underground. So it was inspired by that. Lyrically, that's where the lyrics are inspired by. And the music, I feel like came a lot. It's very inspired by music from West Africa, which is something that I think everybody in the band shares a love for. That genre of music, we've all like listened to it on our own and have a lot of appreciation. So it's a kind of a random combination, but that's what's happening in there.
How did you learn about your grandmother's situation and that story about her being gay but not coming out, or sort of living her life like that? That's such a sort of a deeply personal kind of story that I feel like some families or close friends may never learn about.
Yeah.
If you're willing to share, do you remember how you learned about her story?
Sort of, yeah. It's one of those skeleton in the closet kind of stories that I'm like dragging out and broadcasting to the world right now. But how did I learn about it? I mean, I think I sort of like had an inkling based on like who her friends were around, and I'm also gay. So when I came out to my mom, we had a long conversation about that, because she was sort of worried that I was gonna live a life like my grandmother led, or like that was her frame of reference. So I learned a lot about her life in that time, and like I said, I have this box of letters that sort of tells the story. Yeah.
Here's She Ain't Gonna Wait from the Moonshells on Oldtime Central and Bluegrass Country Radio and Radio Bristol here on the Oldtime Jam.
most of herself and doesn't know how to escape her. The hands holding her close are not the ones she wants. She doesn't know how long she has to wait. She ain't gonna wait. She ain't gonna wait. She ain't gonna wait. She ain't gonna wait. She opens her door and tells the women who run they'll be safe inside. Safe inside. They all have stories to tell in the kitchen with so much to hide. They watch the streets from the windows, little birds of a feather, of a feather. The lives they left are coming to get them, they'll fight them together. There's a knocking at the door and they all turn out the light. They wonder just how long they have to wait. She ain't gonna wait. She ain't gonna wait. She ain't gonna wait. She ain't gonna wait. One day they'll open all the windows and shout in the street, shout in the street. And all the walls are gonna rattle with the sound of their feet. And she'll wake up and see all the curves of the design, the design. She'll turn her ghost into flesh again and rewrite the line. My open hands are more than her fist did before. And I wonder just how long I have to wait. Ain't gonna wait, ain't gonna wait, ain't gonna wait, ain't gonna wait.
Such groovy playing there from the Moonshells here on Old Time Central, Bluegrass Country Radio, and Radio Bristol. That's from their new record, House of Air, coming out on October 2nd. That's She Ain't Gonna Wait. I'm your host, Brad Kolodner, here with Maggie Shar singing lead on that track. Such interesting textures and just a real interesting sonic atmosphere you created on that track. Can you describe what we were hearing on that? There sounded like all kinds of different instruments doing pizzicato and plucking and interesting strumming patterns. So what were we hearing?
Yeah, you're hearing a lot. Yeah, if you looked at the like mixing screen, there's like 30 different tracks going on. You're hearing, yeah, you're hearing two banjos. You're hearing guitar, maybe some might be mandolin on there too, violin, fiddle, drums. There's a lot of like some clapping, little this. I don't even know what else is in there. There's a lot. Yeah, you're right. There's a lot going on.
Now, there are five of you in the band, the Moonshells. Maggie Shar, of course, playing banjo, Brian Slattery, Laura Morowski, Molly Merritt, and Charlie Shaw. Take us through your arranging process. You mentioned that you and Brian will share original song ideas back and forth, but how do you sort of work on your arrangements? Do you do it as a collective group, or are you sort of independently coming up with the arrangement and sort of then projecting that onto the group and sort of directing, things, or is it more of a collaborative kind of process?
Yeah, it's a good question. It's sort of it is always evolving, that process. For this album, for House of Air, that was mostly Brian and I, with some collaboration from other people for sure. And that collaboration happens in the studio. The studio, I'll put in quotation marks because we recorded all of this in Brian's house. So that was actually really super fun. When you're not paying for studio time, it allows for a lot of creativity to happen, which this is the first time that I've experienced recording in that way. So for most of the songs, the arrangements happened as we recorded them. So we would like have a basic, like the bare bones, the melody and the chords, and the words set. And then we would go into recording and then be like, ooh, what if we did this here? No, what if we do that? Can you do that? Do the less of this, it's a conversation and everybody throws in ideas and then it evolves. And then, as we've like taken all the songs that we recorded, maybe this is like backwards from the way most bands do it. Maybe people like play songs for a while and then record them, but we like wrote them as we recorded them, and now we're like learning to play them as a band. And the arrangements are still changing and evolving, and I feel like it's a pretty democratic process. Like everybody's got great ideas, and we're all learning and like trying new things. Laura, I feel like I gotta give a shout out to Laura because we make her play things, and we don't make her, but we invite her to play things in each song we do it in a different key, like all the time. Like, oh, hey, can you play this in B flat? We want to try it there. She's like, which instrument and which key? So there's a lot of changing and mixing and remixing.
Maggie Shar here with Brad Kolodner on the Old Time Central, Bluegrass Country Radio, and Radio Bristol, chatting about your new record, House of Air, with the Moonshells, out on October 2nd. We just heard a track from the record, and I am wondering, because I feel like I read something online a while back about how your music as a band has a generally positive and hopeful message. Is that true? Is this a conscious decision that you're trying to project sort of a hopeful and positive message with your music, or is this just sort of simply the way all of you are collectively as a group, and you just happen to steer towards sort of more positive, hopeful stories?
Yeah, I think it's kind of like that. Like, it may be more that we don't necessarily lean towards positive stories as a group, but there's because a lot of our songs are not necessarily like happy, like, yay, I feel great songs. There are some of those, but there's also a lot of kind of like angsty, like dark things. But I feel like there's a rule, that a loose rule that has sort of evolved as we've written songs, that there needs to be some light in the song, some element of hope, something that like feels like gives you feeling that that whatever the situation is, it could be transformed. Whatever the like muck is, there's a way through it. So we try to keep that in mind with all the lyrics, all the songwriting that we do, and also in like musically too, that there's like some light in there. I think I can speak for myself that I want to create things that I want to listen to, and I don't like to listen to things that make me feel just like hopeless and sad. That's just not. I don't enjoy that, so I don't want to create music that feels that way either.
We're certainly aware in old time music in particular the endless canon of murder ballads and songs with violence and drinking and just all kinds of otherwise negative and sort of hopeless and sad songs. Not to say there isn't perhaps a place for them in the music, but they do tend to dominate sometimes. And I certainly think it's worth reconsidering how we approach this style rooted in tradition, and have a wider spectrum of stories and messages from different backgrounds and different performers. And I am wondering about your background in particular, because I know that you got your degree in school in education, and you've also worked as a childhood music educator. Can you speak to sort of the value of or sort of the connection between music and just your general wellness and disposition, and how critical music is for maintaining your mental health and wellness?
Yeah, yeah. It's critical. It's very critical. Yeah, there's a lot in that question. I think music is a real like clear channel of love and clear channel of joy, and it's like it, of course other feelings can be channeled through it as well that are equally wonderful and important. But yeah, it's just like it's like an easy way to get there, and I think a lot of that comes from connecting with other humans, whether you're playing with them or listening together or singing together, or yeah. And I that's what I love the most about doing the kids work. I mean, actually, that's what I love the most about music, period. It's pretty blatant in the kids world, because it's about making music together and making it accessible for everyone and every family and in every household via computer screen. that it's a thing that like it's a tool that we all have to connect and feel magic.
Maggie Shar here on Bluegrass Country Radio, Radio Bristol, and Oldtime Central. I'm your host, Brad Kolodner, and this dovetails nicely into our next song, which is from the Moonshells' latest record, House of Air, out in early October. And this song's called Ready, and it features a video stitched together with all kinds of different people. Can you describe for our listeners out in radio world what is contained in this video?
Yeah, so we had plans to make a video pre-COVID, like in March, and obviously that didn't work out. We were gonna make a video for this song, so this was sort of in response to what was happening in the world, and the song itself, was written and recorded before we knew any of this was coming, but it's sort of a song about being ready for things changing, like knowing that change is inevitable, and like how can we adapt and find that thread of hope and happiness. So we just asked people that we know, our friends and our friends' friends, to send us a video, and it's just like little clips of people in their lives. And this was in the beginning of the real like lockdown isolation time, so we were all feeling pretty alone. And I think it's heartwarming, or it was then especially, to see just like, yeah, like we're all still here. Nobody went anywhere. We're all still here, and we're all connected, and we're gonna get through it.
Here's the Moonshells with Ready. The Moonshells with Ready from their new album House of Air out in early October. Such a beautiful video with so many wonderful people, many different expressions. For those of you listening out in radio world, you can watch the video out on YouTube. Just search for The Moonshells and Ready, and you'll find a really lovely just a compilation video with people of all kinds, all ages, all backgrounds, with quite an array of facial expressions as well. How did you pitch that to your friends?
I think we just said, like, film yourself looking at the camera. And people showed up as they were.
Very open-ended, and you got quite a wide array of expressions. Really great concept, and I'm sure at that time in the shutdown, the early stages of the pandemic, I can imagine how poignant that, probably piecing that together was probably quite an experience. Are you the one who edited it and put it all together?
That credit goes to Brian Slattery.
Chatting with Maggie Shar here on Bluegrass Country Radio, Old Time Central, and Radio Bristol through the Old Time Jam. So much old time on that description. I'm your host, Brad Kolodner. Maggie Shar out of Western Mass, a member of the group The Moonshells. Not only a tremendous banjo player and songwriter, singer, but also a childhood music educator. You mentioned earlier that you are the co-founder of an organization called Little Roots. Can you tell us a little bit about the organization and what your mission is?
Yeah, I think I kind of mentioned it already. Our mission really is to, make music accessible for kids and families, like make it something that everybody can participate in. And we also have a maybe less overt mission. No, it's pretty overt mission to make adult-friendly kids music. So I think a shortage of music for kids that adults can enjoy as well. So that's part of the mission. And we teach classes. Right now we're doing all virtual. We had to make that shift online, which isn't as fun as in person, but it's been pretty cool because we've been able to connect with kids from all around the world, and it's kind of neat to have everybody together in a sense. So yeah, we do classes and private lessons and concerts, things like that. Yeah.
Is there a website that folks can look up for more info?
Yeah, littlerootsmusic.com. We're about to start our fall section actually on Monday, and we have classes Monday through Thursday every week that are live on Zoom. And then also we're pretty excited about this part. It's because it's a new project that only was birthed because of the pandemic situation. We're making a pre-recorded show that has like special guest artists pulling from our musician friends. We have Ifo Donovan and her family singing a song for the first episode, and musicians in the old time world. Emily Miller and Val Mendel are going to be in one episode singing a song with Flora, their little one. So excited about that.
How does working with young ones impact your own approach to playing music?
Oh, I love that question. You got good questions, Brad.
I'm a professional.
Yeah, I think that I could tell.
Mm-hmm. With an ego as well, I guess.
Yeah.
Oh gosh.
Working with little ones, it really helps me stay connected to like what I hope it. Speaking of ego, it helps to keep that more at bay. They really like connect. It's just like all heart with little kids, and it's all love. And I can find that space so easily when I play music with them. They don't care like how good a banjo player I am, or if I sing the wrong words or the wrong notes. It's not about being right or wrong or good or bad. It's just about like channeling love and joy and having fun. So I think I learned that through working with kids, and then I try to bring it over into all the music that I do, regardless of the age audience.
I've spent a lot of time out on my front porch during the pandemic playing banjo or fiddle or singing and playing guitar. And there are frequently families that walk by with the parents just kind of looking straight ahead, walking down the sidewalk. And 100% of the time, the kids always look. And I'd say 80 to 90% of the time, the parents don't. And the kids will, even as they're walking by, will just keep their head turned, as far as they can turn as they're walking down the sidewalk. And I see this over and over again. And there is something really kind of interesting to take away from that observation, I think, how kids of really any age, particularly little kids, though, are just so transfixed by the music. Maybe they're just soaking it in. It's something that's unfamiliar to them. But do you, as an expert in this field, do you have any? And you sort of just alluded to it, but do you have any thoughts as to why kids always keep their head turned towards the music when they're walking by?
I mean, I think it's innate. I think like music is the first language of humans. Like before you can talk, you can sing. Like, you can make tones and you can connect with sound that way. So I feel like it's just something that is like a birthright. Like you're just born loving music. That's my I don't know if that's an expert idea, but that's my idea about it.
Maggie Shar here on Old Time Central, Bluegrass Country Radio, and the Old Time Jam on Radio Bristol. Really appreciate you taking the time out to be with us today. I'm your host, Brad Kolodner, and I can't wait to see you out in person at a festival somewhere down the road, hopefully in the not too distant future. And how can folks learn more about your music and check out your new record?
You can check out my website, which is maggieshar.com. It has all the links that you need. You can check out themoonshells.com. We have a Bandcamp page that has, we have like a pre-release thing going on. You can pre-order the album if you want, where it'll be available on October 2nd. And we're on all the things like iTunes and Spotify and all that good stuff. Also, can I throw a plug for my banjo class in there?
Of course, go ahead.
I like teaching kids, but I also love teaching adults to play the banjo. It's like one of my passions, and a passion that I feel like has been blooming a bit during the pandemic. I'm just like really enjoying it, and actually really enjoying doing it on Zoom. It really works. So anyway, I have a free workshop I'm offering on October 1st on Zoom. You can find that on my website too. Just teaching people how to get started playing clawhammer for anybody who's just curious and wants to, you've got your banjo laying around, want to start that project. And then that's going to lead into a series of learning about how to use tools and build repertoire with specific tunes and inserting tools into tunes for the next few weeks. And then in January, I'm going to do a jam class for more advanced players. A question I get asked, I bet you do too, Brad. I get asked a lot about like people want to know how to jam, how to improvise, how to pick up tunes on the fly. So I've been developing a curriculum for that I think is pretty fun and works really well in this format. I ran that class in June. This past June, we had live fiddlers zooming in so we could practice jamming at the end of each class. It's a lot of fun. So I'm going to do that again probably in January.
Well, thanks again for being with us here, and let's send him out with another tune on banjo. What do you want to play?
I'm going to play Horses in the Canebrake. Another one I learned from Adam Hurt, and this is one that I think is it just makes me feel happy. This is that hope in the music that I like.
It's Maggie Shar here on Old Time Central, Bluegrass Country Radio, and Radio Bristol on the Old Time Jam. Thanks so much for being with us, Maggie. Wonderful playing. The new record from the Moonshells is out on October 2nd. It's called House of Air, and hope to see you soon. Thanks so much for being with us, Maggie.
Thanks so much for having me, Brad.
So long, everybody.